many people, listed buildings evoke images of character, romance and period charm. But for an inexperienced property developer, they can spell unexpected expense and red tape and end up being a labour of love rather than profit. As a guess, I would say this is an £80,000 project.
My God.
80k?
Yeah. There are almost 500,000 listed buildings in the UK, and many of them make totally charming homes. But as a first development, it's safer to steer well clear, especially if you're not entirely certain what listing is all about.
Don't ask me what that means, do I?
Well, grade 2 listed means you can't...
Yeah, obviously...
You can't change, but you can change the inside, can't you?
Entrepreneur David Thompson and his wife Tricia have bought this grade 2 listed Georgian terrace property in the market town of Sudbury in Suffolk. In fact, he bought it without asking her first.
He didn't show it to me before he bought it because he knew that I would try and talk him out of it. When I saw it, I went, oops.
Oops, indeed. The house is rotten to the core, and David had hoped to turn it around in just 6 weeks as his latest business venture. But if he didn't know what listed buildings were all about before he bought it, it's a pretty rude awakening.
Obviously, we need permission to remove it, but because it's a later
permission
edition...
to just take down something that really is so horrible
Because
and it's a later date?
Listed building legislation doesn't only cover the building as originally built, it also covers all of the alterations subsequently, right up to the 20th century.
Regardless.
David's now starting to realise what he's let himself in for. He could make a huge loss on this development. But I think he could make a profit if he remembers to keep his business head on. Gosh, it really is quite dilapidated. How did you feel when you first came in?
Well, I just fell in love with it, everything about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What about you?
I hated it.
Really?
Really hated it.
Just horrified. While David fell in love with the quirky charm of the listed building, Tricia saw the leaky, saggy roof, rotten timber, shop plasterwork, and the money it's going to cost. They've already spent £93,000 buying the property. They've only allowed themselves a very tight £20,000 budget with a £5,000 contingency fund. They hope to sell for £175,000, which would give them a profit of £57,000, or a massive 48% return. But their maths doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. Whilst their expected sale price is reasonable, I think their budget could triple if they don't wise up. This is really quite unmodernised, isn't it? I see it's raining inside and outside. The house is set on a busy main road into Sudbury and has a quirky layout with 3 different shaped stories. On the top floor, there are 2 decent-sized double bedrooms. Half a flight down to the first floor, there's a small room in the eaves currently housing a hot water tank. On the first floor, there's a narrow bathroom and the master bedroom. On the ground floor, there's a reception room at the front, and at the back, a kitchen and a dilapidated conservatory and loo. So what are your plans for in here?
Right. What we want to do is we want to open this whole wall up, put
Okay.
an RSJ in, open up so it becomes one lovely big room. Living, cooking, just great.
So rebuild the conservatory
Completely.
and knock it through.
Yeah, and knock it through.
And any other plans for down here?
We'll obviously get rid of that horrible loo.
So get rid of the loo.
That's got to go.
So you won't have a downstairs loo at all?
The only alternative is there's a lovely little shed down the bottom of the garden. And
Right.
I was seriously thinking of putting in an outside loo that flushes, not that you've got to empty the
What
thing.
luxury!
No, I just think it'd be sort of quite quaint, really.
Well, it would be quaint.
And we can always supply an umbrella.
So have you got any other plans for the garden then?
She's got this mad idea about... No, it is...
Lovely idea.
No, you love the idea of
What's
putting
the
a hot
idea?
tub in the garden.
In the garden.
And
Do you like hot tubs?
she'd live in the hot tub if she had a chance.
Right. So you're going to move in here and go in the hot tub?
No, but somebody...
Might be as mad as you.
as mad as me.
Sarah, one of my friends actually came up with a great idea. I don't know where he saw it, but we have this old-fashioned sort of, these lovely brass things with a shower head.
Yeah.
And we sort of make this area just sort of halfway down the garden because you're so enclosed and you can sort of run out there naked in the summer and just run under the shower. Nice cold shower.
You've got this place muddled up with Portugal.
Well, yeah.
A hot tub or a luxury garden shower won't add a penny to David and Trisha's asking price. And I'm not sure reinventing the outside loo is the best idea I've ever heard. They'll need listed building consent to revamp the conservatory and knock through to create a kitchen diner. But it's a great idea, buyers will like it, and it's a good use of the space. But their ideas for the rest of the property are, well, a tad eccentric. They want to turn the sitting room into a study with built-in bookcases all around the room. This means they'll be relocating the sitting room to the first floor, replacing the master bedroom. Losing this bedroom will considerably reduce the sale price of this house. They also want to halve the size of the already tiny bathroom to create a bigger landing. I think this is a terrible idea.
Sarah, I'm positive I can convince you to getting some space on that landing so that at least when you get to the top of the stairs, you're not in a rabbit warren.
Anyone who buys this house is buying an old listed house. And they're not going to be shocked or surprised that it's quite restricted. I'm just not sure that it's going to fix it by having a bigger landing. It's the restriction.
Oh, it is, because it's going to give psychological immediate. Not only is it going to be actual space, but it's going to be actual psychological feeling that as you come up the stairs, you've got this wonderful new window that we're going to put in.
And
it's going to be fantastic.
Can you afford to do that with the
absolutely.
Space you've got?
No problem.
The bathroom in this house is barely big enough as it is. But David thinks he has an alternative solution on the top floor.
We've got to get another bathroom in here somehow. So we're going to put a bathroom right here.
But then you're going to end up with a really small room up here.
Really small.
So you're going to have 1.5 bedrooms and a bathroom.
Because they're shrinking the bathroom on the first floor, David and Trisha have decided they'll need a larger bathroom on the second floor. They're creating this by shrinking one of the bedrooms into a single.
I just think that there is a very simple solution to the layout. And it'll be cheaper to do.
Right.
And it'll work better in terms of all sorts of people who might end up living here. And that's to have this bedroom as it is.
Right.
To have that bedroom as it is, and then for the small room halfway up the stairs, that would be big enough to be a shower room.
Having a second bathroom is a good idea. It will usually increase the value of the property. But you need to think carefully about where to put it. Putting it here would be much better than shrinking a bedroom. And I really think the master bathroom on the first floor has to stay its full size. But David is adamant.
My idea of taking the sizing down that bathroom on the first floor was so good for me. I mean, that was just part of opening up that landing and looking over, wasn't it? I mean, the whole, the view, everything.
I like the idea of the shower room just here. I'm not quite sure about the bathroom.
We've got to find an alternative somehow because I don't want that downstairs. You're going to have to tie me up and throw me out.
But I think that's where it's all going to fall apart. And that's because you're going from a 3-bedroom house to a 1.5-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms, which seems an awful lot of bathrooms.
So can I just hold you there for a second, Sarah? 1.5 bedrooms. Can we not call it like 1 bedroom and a single bedroom or something?
Okay, a 2-bedroom
lots of
to
options.
a 3-bedroom house in this area is worth about £30,000 less to have a 2-bedroom.
And making this house worth less is something that David and Trisha can't afford to do. This project is going to soak up a whole heap of cash. They've made the mistake of not getting a full structural survey done, but even the basic survey listed £30,000 worth of structural work alone. On a property of this age in this condition, spending £500 on a full structural survey now will help them with their budget in the long run. They've got £1,000 for architectural drawings. They've put an inadequate £2,000 aside for a new roof and £6,100 for rewiring, replumbing and building materials. They've only put by £500 to install 2 completely new bathrooms and create an outside loo. The kitchen gets a fair £3,000 and the extension £2,000. They reckon they'll spend £4,400 on decorating and dressing the house. £1,000 is assigned to the garden, And they've put in a contingency of £5,000, bringing them to a total of £25,000. But there's nothing for buying and selling fees, which will instantly eat up their contingency, leaving them nothing spare for the extensive structural repair work.
I'd have thought it cost about 50 to do.
It's funny you should say that because somebody else said that, and I thought they were mad. Sorry, I don't. Please,
But you know,
don't
you
take
might
that
be
wrong.
right. We
I
might
just-
both be mad.
50 grand. I mean, I just hope that I don't have to come back to you and sort of kneel.
Eat your words.
And eat my words. Right.
David and Tricia Thompson have bought a rotten Grade 2 listed townhouse in Suffolk. They have the rather eccentric idea they can do it up on a budget of just £25,000 in just 6 weeks.
And it doesn't really look as if we've got that much work to do.
Everyone is telling him otherwise, but David doesn't want to listen. He's not listening to his architect.
I'd be surprised if he spends less than 50,000.
He's not listening to his son.
When I saw it, I thought he was mad.
And he's not listening to me. But what's new?
We're not going to go over budget.
Please, God, we're not going to go over budget.
This house is literally falling apart at the seams. But David and Tricia seem oblivious. They haven't had a full structural survey done, a big mistake in a 200-year-old listed house.
It was another probably £400 or £500 that I didn't need to spend.
But as soon as they bring a builder on board, he makes it pretty clear that the house they've just spent 93 grand on is pretty much falling down.
There's a hell of a lot of work to do. Have you seen the...
Yeah.
All this dampness, plasterwork, as in an old house, is shot to pieces. You see the plaster just completely blown. The timbers, they've just had it. I'm going to have to do lots of replacing. Plumbing work is all going to have to be ripped out and all brand new.
I'm not happy about that, John. I'm just not happy about that.
There's a hell of a lot of timbers that need replacing. I mean, this whole area is going to have to come down, I'm afraid.
What's the lower ceiling down, is it, John?
It won't be just the ceiling.
Oh, right.
We're going to have to take the roof off upstairs as well. I don't think David had realised the amount of work that was actually involved in this house.
Thanks to no full structural survey, no quotes, and no research, David and Tricia had no idea what they were getting into. But as John begins to remove the whole section of the house above the bathroom, floor, joists and all, they're brought down to earth with a bang.
I think after the meeting today with John and going around the house, I think I would have liked to have had a full structural survey done.
I believe we probably will go over the budget, personally. Over the next couple of weeks, we
What do you
will-
feel? What do you feel?
Maybe
Five?
five. Maybe probably
I don't want to
five.
put words into your
No,
mouth.
but I would have said about 5,000.
This is miles off. Now the property has been stripped back, I can see that this job is going to cost even more than I first thought. An extra £5,000 gives them a budget of £30,000, and that won't even come close to sorting this house out. It's about time David and Tricia started facing facts.
If I looked at this house as a guess, I would say this is an £80,000 project.
My God.
80k?
Yeah, I would have thought it's physically impossible to do this for less than 60, and it's really an £80,000 job. But you're not in it.
I'm not
30, you're
phased.
confident.
I'm not phased. I'm not confident at 30 at all. I want to try and achieve 30.
But I think that it's going to cost considerably more than you think it is. And if I was you at this stage, I would make the core structure of the house sound. I'd make sure you've got a sound roof, you've got sound walls,
Yeah.
sound floors. I would minimise what you're doing to the house and do what you do properly, because otherwise I think you've got a real
Problem. But I still believe that we can contain it if we're very, very careful
okay.
and produce something. Now,
And are you still, so you're still keen on having are you still going to have a jacuzzi in the garden?
No.
And, you're not?
I think that's possibly
One step
Wishful
too
thinking.
far.
yes.
Cutting out the unnecessary extras is a must when you start getting into trouble on any development. But there are other rules of thumb to help you save cash on a listed building. Unlike David and Tricia, you should never buy a listed property until you know exactly what you're dealing with.
grade 2 listing to me was a really grey area. I really didn't have that much. I should do, really, at my age. I should really know a bit more about it.
On any listed house, alterations to the exterior and the interior of the property will need approval.
I didn't realise that it sort of involved everything, you know, right down to the last spark plug, really.
And that approval takes time, about 10 weeks. So get your plans right and stick with them. Constantly amending them will slow your development down and extend your schedule. And it's not just time, but money that you need to keep a grip on. The best way to save cash is to cut down on the amount you're doing. Work with the original layout as much as possible. Another way to claw back the spend is to find out about grants. Lots of councils have a budget to help with improvements to listed buildings. You can also claim back the VAT on some of the work you carry out. After 10 weeks waiting, David and Trisha's initial plans have finally been approved. But they keep on coming up with elaborate new ideas, all of which need signing off. And the conservation officer is not happy about plans for a laundry chute, which they haven't told her about.
When we're looking at listed buildings, what we have to do is make sure that you're complying with your plans.
Can I don't know whether I can show you.
I mean, do you want to have a quick look, if that's
Of
okay?
course, yeah. Trisha's idea is to just put literally a hole in the wall, nicely boxed in, and quite small. I mean, you know, enough to put a shirt or a sweater down, just drop into the basket. We just thought it was a nice, neat little idea.
Okay.
You know, so that when you're undressing in the dressing room or whatever, bang,
Keep
straight
it tidy,
down.
just straight
You know,
down into the chute.
I mean, you could have two chutes and have a coloured and a white, but no. That's not right.
Shall we go up and have a look from the other side?
Yes, let's. Yeah, let's.
Joking apart, the laundry chute will involve creating a hole in the wall. And with a listed building, that's not something you can do lightly.
Right, I think probably the best thing to do is just to get Barry to draw me exactly where it is, what size it's going to be, what it's going to look like from either side.
Yeah.
What the construction's going to be, you know, sort of cross section.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a look at it. I think that's the easiest thing to do.
That's great.
Just to make sure that we know what we're getting and you know what you're getting as well, really.
Yes, that's brilliant. No problem.
No
problem.
Cutting corners isn't an option.
If David were to get this wrong, then he would be possibly liable for a criminal offence, which can lead to term in prison and can lead to a fine of up to £20,000.
And it doesn't stop with the laundry chute. She's drawn up a whole list of other things they need to do to the house, from reinstating a lath and plaster ceiling to putting a fireplace back. Only now is the reality of developing a listed building fully hitting home to David and Trisha.
What about the laundry chute? How big is it going to be? What are you going to line it with? And what angle is it going to be at? What is it actually there for? Well, we just thought it'd be a bit of fun.
We can get everything done how she wants it done and not buy a grade 2 listed building ever again.
We're in their hands completely.
It's now 6 weeks since they got their approval, and according to David's own schedule, he should have finished the whole project by now. Although the stripping back is almost done, work hasn't even begun on putting things back together. And it seems it's all change on the layout front.
I just got this thing about making it into a one-bedroom.
A one bedroom? It was 2 bedroom last time.
I know.
Hey, how about no bedrooms?
Well, no, I know what you're saying, but I mean...
Why?
Because I personally would like a one-bedroom house. If I was single, I would love a one-bedroom house. Now,
But are you
I've
going
done
to
a lot
live
of-
here?
No.
So who's going to buy the house then?
Whether they're male, female, 2 males, 2 females, it doesn't matter. The fact I think in actual fact there's quite a big market.
So you're talking about the gay market?
Oh, I think the pink market in this area is quite strong, yeah.
But this isn't Brighton, is it?
No, but...
This is Sudbury. I mean, nothing against Sudbury, but do you not think that by specifically targeting this house to a niche market, you are, well, there's no question you are narrowing your market by trying to appeal to a niche market.
Absolutely.
And I would have thought that as a massive market for one-bedroom houses at one-bedroom house prices, but there's no market for one-bedroom houses at 3-bedroom house prices. How much are you planning on selling this for? The same price as a 3-bedroom house?
Yes.
This is quite possibly the worst idea I have ever heard from a first-time property developer. They've got their market completely wrong. Sudbury is popular with downsizers and families looking for decent-sized homes, not gay couples looking for one-bedroom houses. And David and Tricia don't even have to look far to see the kind of house that sells around here. Next door is a 3-bedroom property similar to theirs. It's also Grade 2 listed, and the owners have really made the most of it, appealing to as broad a market as possible.
So, I mean, this is a 3-bedroom house, and it's a little bit bigger than yours, but it's valued at £230,000. I mean, the most that a 1-bedroom property has sold for that I could find in the whole of Sudbury, doing my research, was £120,000. So even optimistically saying yours was even more gorgeous, you might get 140, but you're not going to get anywhere near making a profit.
I know that what you say in principle is right, that the 2-3-bedroom houses make more money. And that's the business, and we are supposed to be in the property business. But I'm looking for the niche. I still believe, I have to believe, that there are
Why?
people. Because I'm bloody different from anybody else.
Because you want to be different.
Not because I want to be.
Hard work. Why don't you just go outside and wear a funny coloured jumper instead of going through all this hassle to be different?
It all seems to me that we all keep going back to the comfort zone. Oh, let's sit in the comfort zone. It's so good that we all live in the comfort zone. Why?
Making things different is fun, but why would someone think, well, you know, I'm going to kick against the grain here and spend an extra £80,000 more than another 1-bedroom property because I want to be different.
I think they've made the mistake of letting this house get under their skin, rather than seeing it as a business. Tricia seems to be coming around, but David is as strong-minded as ever.
This house would appeal to me as a 1-bedroom house. It would not appeal to me as a 2-bedroom house. That's making it personal. Do you know, my whole life...
You've always took the difficult way.
Always
Let's try and take an easy way with this house, shall we?
This house, we're going to let this house have its way.
All right.
That's what we're going to do. We're not going to sit here and argue all night bloody long about how many bedrooms it's going to be and how many bedrooms it's going to be. What we're going to do is let this house answer it.
And while the house tries to decide how many bedrooms it's going to have, David is busy deciding what style it's going to have and saving a few quid on his electrician's bill in the process.
I don't want the walls chased.
You don't want them
I really
chased?
don't want them chased. I see no reason why we can't service mount some of the cabling, okay,
Yeah.
which hopefully will cut down your labour time.
Yeah.
And also, I've got this idea with the house that I want to take out all the ceiling lights and all the wall lights. Right. So I just don't want anything. So I want to create this ambient feel about the house.
Getting rid of all the ceiling and wall lights and having only table lamps in all of the rooms will be a turn-off for buyers. And having surface-mounted electric cables, rather than burying them in the walls, will come across as cheap.
When you see the trunking, you might feel like it's a little bit more down market than you thought it could have been if the cables had been hidden in the walls. I don't think it's a very good idea to not have any wall lights because most people who are buying a house like what they like.
In a modern development, lighting is something you can't afford to get wrong. It will devalue the house. And in a small and dark house, thinking through your lighting is especially important. Each room needs to be thought out separately. Taking an across-the-board approach won't work. Flexibility is key. In a family house, the rooms will be used for different things like reading and watching TV. You should have a combination of ceiling lights and lamps for this. Different bulbs can be used for different rooms. Halogen lights give a clear, bright light that's good for working rooms like kitchens. Traditional bulbs give off a warm yellowy light, suitable for bedrooms and living rooms, and work well in period properties. No matter what kind of development you're doing or how tight your budget is, you need a figure in there for lighting. It's 12 weeks into the project, double the time that David wanted to take. Although the house has been stripped back for weeks, John the builder's been held up on another job. and it's not until now that he can start full-time rebuilding it. But no sooner has he started
Let's go and get the rest of the tools then.
than he just vanishes.
I've been leaving messages for him for 2 weeks, virtually every day.
He's not turning up at the site, answering his phone, or returning any calls. David has been left in the lurch.
Your call has been forwarded to the T-Mobile voicemail service. At the tone, please record your message.
John, I've been trying to get hold of you now for, I don't know, it seems like weeks, and this situation just can't go on any longer. I mean, you might have been taken ill, but I wouldn't have known. I didn't know anything. We're really, really pissed off, basically, in a big way.
Now it's anyone's guess whether this job will ever be finished. David and Tricia Thompson had hoped to do a quick paint job on this listed house in just 6 weeks, but after 4 months, work has ground to a halt. Their builders had personal problems and has gone AWOL. And while they plan to get it done for £25,000, I think it's going to be closer to 80. In the midst of all the turmoil, David's finally had some good luck. Thanks to his local contacts, he's found a team of builders who can start straight away.
Percentage of the job done, I would say 10%. There's not an awful lot being done, and there's a lot of repair work has got to be done.
And progress is not the only problem. Vaughan has identified a whole stream of extra jobs that'll add to the budget, like steel foundations for the extension and strengthening of the roof.
As far as the money side is, yeah, the budget's going to go up. I don't even want to put a figure on it. It could go up by 10, could go up by 15, could even go up by 20.
Adding 20 grand to his budget will go some way to helping. But this listed house continues to soak up cash. Replacing a ceiling isn't a simple case of some plasterboard and a skim. Here, there's days of highly skilled work involved, putting up Lars, mixing lime mortar, and putting 3 coats on. But it's difficult for David to really know what his total spend will be because he's left an awful lot of detail off his budget. All he has is a room name and an estimated cost for the whole room, with no breakdown of any jobs. This means when the bills come in, he'll have no idea whether he's on target or not.
Instead of breaking it down room by room through the house, you need to break it down to plastering and to joinery. If you've broken it down like this, when the plasterer's finished and they come to you and say, oh, can I have £3,000 for the plastering, do you take a bit off each room or...?
Well, that's basically what I'd exactly done.
The key is to be realistic, and this is not the stage where you want to think, oh, if we squeeze the figures down, we've made a bigger profit, because it's got to actually be real profit.
What they need to do now is draw up a proper schedule of works. It should list every single job and specification in the renovation. This means you and the builder know exactly what you're paying for, right down to the last nail. It's best to do this at the start of your project, but better late than never.
So there's a lot of plastering that needs doing throughout the house. Electrical work.
Yeah.
Okay. Double sockets per room.
Three per room.
All the radiators, the boiler, all the pipe work. You need to add in hacking off, then putting the laths up, and then plastering.
So you literally break it down like that, all the way down?
Yeah, all the way down. So that's 5,000 for that. I reckon that is going to come in at about 7,000.
If we put 7 down and we get change, we'll
that's a
work
bonus
on that, and then
less.
it's a bonus, yeah, okay.
And it's soon clear to David and Tricia that the project is going to cost a hell of a lot more than they thought.
At this moment in time, I'm just really prepared to just go with it, see what we can do, and if at the end of the day we save a few shillings, well, great.
Well, then that's the point of a schedule, really, is that you're very clear about what you want.
Yes.
Everybody knows where they are.
Yeah.
If you come in at a bit under, that's great, but you are so much better off coming in under what you expect than over.
I think it's quite a very good way of doing it, and I think if we'd have done it this way to start with, we wouldn't have obviously arrived at the 25,000. We'd have probably arrived at about 40, and then by your accounts, we'd have still been under budget, but we might have been closer to it than we are now.
The extra work and red tape of a listed building always makes them more expensive to develop. Back at home, David and Tricia's rapidly diminishing profit margin is finally forcing them into a layout rethink.
I think we just got to turn the house back to what it was. Just keep it a 2/3 bedroom house.
Yeah.
Go with what Sarah said, which I hate.
I just think with that particular house, with all the problems that we're coming up against, that it would be just so much easier. It would just be so much easier to keep it the way it is.
The good news is that they're now designing a 3-bedroomed house. They've binned their idea for the study and they're keeping the sitting room on the ground floor. Even better, they're not shrinking the already small family bathroom. The bad news is that these new plans must be signed off by the conservation officer. But in their hurry to get started, David and Tricia have forgotten.
They came in, saw what we were doing, a couple of things she didn't like, and without much to do, just threatened to take me to court or prosecute me if I carried on doing what I was doing.
There are numerous changes to the layout of the building when I went on site. The works were unauthorised and it meant that we could prosecute.
Unfortunately, this is costing the client more money, and we're being held up by red tape, but it's totally out of our hands.
If you want to make changes, you do actually need to make sure that you run it past somebody and that you then get that approved in writing.
And not being asked to sign off their new layout isn't the only issue she's unhappy about. She wants unapproved plaster removed from the bedrooms, the use of metal guttering instead of plastic, and, thank goodness, she won't let David surface mount the electrics. They've all got to be buried in the walls. David calls a site meeting.
In all honesty, I mean, it's going to cost me quite a lot of extra money to actually get this thing to fall into the way they want it done.
It's one of the problems of working with a listed building, that there are certain hoops that you're put through and things that you have to do in the ways that you perhaps wouldn't with an ordinary building.
Well, I'm not sure
I'd
I'd
take
ever do
the
another
council
one.
with you.
Adding time and money to this project is the last thing that David needs, but he has no choice.
It is so frustrating. It is so frustrating because you know you've got to go by the rules. You can't not go by the rules.
After more discussions with the Conservation Department, David agrees to keep them better informed and they agree not to prosecute. And so work continues on site. But David still hasn't finalised his layout. He can't decide whether to make the eaves room into a second bathroom. It can add a lot of value to a property, but his plumber's not keen. He thinks the water pressure won't be good enough and the cost of a new suite will be expensive.
I would say to put the suite up here, you'd be in excess of £2,000.
So it's not just the cost.
No,
it's not just the fact
really
that it's not going to be
function as
working.
well.
Yeah, the function, and that's important.
Yeah.
So why throw money at something that is
Only just going to pass muster,
is not really going to do the job?
It would cost David around £1,500 extra to get better water pressure into the attic. I think it would be a good investment, but David's not convinced.
The actual cost of turning that into a second bathroom, I think, is prohibitive. I mean, the budget's already going to go way up, and we know that. So let's not increase it by putting a second bathroom in, which I really, really don't think is important. If that reduces the overall market price because it hasn't got a second, then I'm prepared to live with that.
To me, this is a false economy, but there's an even more disastrous plumbing decision in the offing. David isn't putting in central heating.
Personally, I don't think that central heating is a huge issue. Warmth is obviously something that's important, especially in this country and especially in winter. But it just seemed to be another, quite an expensive problem. It was just one more set of pipes I just didn't think she needed. So that I just literally put it to one side.
David is installing a small electric heater in each of the bedrooms. The other rooms will have nothing at all. This is a massive mistake. People buying this house will want it finished and not to have to spend thousands of pounds and have a huge upheaval putting it in themselves. Cutting back on basic essential jobs when the budget goes through the roof isn't a good idea and will come back to bite them when they try to sell. I understand David and Tricia are trying to save money, but there are some things you just can't skimp on. They've now bagged themselves an X-Display kitchen, but it still costs them almost £2,000. Although X-Display can be a good way to save money, you have to be careful what you buy. They've now got to work out how to get it to fit into this awkward space that has little room for wall cabinets.
The problem with X-Display kitchens is that unless you've got exactly the same shaped space, it actually can be quite difficult to fit them in and can actually end up more expensive than buying an off-the-peg one, because you have to buy extra units here, you don't use those units there, you have to get a new worktop, you have to get bits and pieces to try and make it cobble together, and sometimes it's a terrible false economy.
The price of this kitchen doesn't include the cost of the worktop, fridge, washing machine, or any extra units they may need.
I have to say, the space you've got here, although it's now a nice big space, it's actually slightly awkward, the space, because there isn't actually that many walls that you can use.
We obviously need to have some ideas, really, about how we're going to put it.
You need to keep this space empty, so you can't have anything here. There's two options. You either fill in this alcove, fill in the fireplace there, fill in this alcove, and you can have kitchen units around there. But the better solution, I think, is that you have units down here, units down here. This is the kitchen. Then you have a big table in the middle of this space here. This area here is your eating area, and this area here is your kitchen. When someone comes into the house and they have a vision of how they want to live, it'll fit that way.
Yeah. Makes
And I love the idea of the kitchen looking out onto the garden.
And you also can have a cupboard so you can put
I love it.
We've achieved.
And whilst we found a solution, it would have been better to have thought about the kitchen layout at the time they drew up the plans for the extension, then bought units that actually fitted. And I have another reservation about the kitchen. I think it's too old-fashioned. Just because this is a period house, it doesn't mean you have to be a slave to traditional designs. So before David and Tricia decorate the rest of the house, I'm taking them to see this Georgian hotel.
What you'll notice about this hotel is that there are period features that they've highlighted throughout the hotel, but they haven't gone over the top to try to replicate a sort of museum piece, and it blends contemporary with traditional.
To appeal to as broad a market as possible, they should make as few bold statements as possible. In a period house, it's always better to let the house do the talking.
Putting in the wrong period features can detract a lot of money off the end value, because the point is someone's buying your house because it's a period listed property, and they want to see that period, not another one. That doesn't mean that you should ever go and get bad replications of period features from cheap shops. You can get appalling replications of cornicing. People put coving in where there would never have been coving. It would have only been detailed cornicing. You can get polystyrene ceiling roses, and these are all no-nos, and you should avoid them like the plague.
I think colours need to be simple and help the period details stand out. Here, the walls and ceilings are the same colour. It's just light and shadows that create the interest. And just a few pieces of well-chosen furniture will prevent the rooms from feeling overcrowded. At the development, David and Tricia have gone for neutral off-whites that should really enhance the character of this house. And thankfully, they've decided to add in a few ceiling and wall lights. But have they done enough?
A panel heater.
Yes.
It was meant to take 6 weeks, but almost 6 months later, David and Tricia Thompson have finally finished their first development.
If we do it again, anything else would be easy.
I think, seriously, it would.
What was a dilapidated Georgian townhouse has been transformed and looks really great. The kitchen has changed beyond all recognition. The new extension and separate dining area is really successful. Although I do think their choice of units may let them down.
I'm not sure whether you wouldn't have been better off buying a slightly more contemporary kitchen
off the peg that fitted everywhere, and you might have found that it wasn't actually any more expensive. At the back of the house, they've laid a patio, but that's all they've done. For the £80 or so it would have cost them to turf this space, I think it would have been well worth it. The main sitting room is attractive and spacious, and on the ground floor, where it should be. Up on the first floor, the master bedroom is full of period detail, but leaving out central heating is a real mistake. Someone who's looking around this house is going to think there's no central heating, and no central heating is a bit of a no-no in terms of a modernised house. The cost and inconvenience of installing it will mean a potential buyer knocking money off the sale price. The bathroom, though, looks great. Imagine if it was this size, which is the original size you were going to have it, it would have been...
Awful.
Awful, yes.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And whilst the small eaves room has had a makeover, it lacks an identity. It would have made a perfect second bathroom. It was the right decision to keep 3 double bedrooms, and the 2 on the top floor feel light and spacious. But the transformation has come at a price. Originally, they were planning to spend £20,000 with a £5,000 contingency. Do you know how much you did end up spending?
I think possibly 70,000.
I don't even want to have... I can't
Maybe
bear
a
the
little bit
thought.
more.
It actually ended up costing just under £77,000.
So what you said with your thing, what was it, Sarah? 80,000?
Yeah, I reckon this would be about 80, so...
Is more or less spot on.
But a house is going to cost what it costs to do up, and you might want it to cost less. You can keep your fingers crossed it'll cost less, but it's going to cost what it costs. David's budget was way out right from the beginning. The cost of rewiring, replumbing and general building materials shot up to just over £10,000, while the amount set by for the extension tripled to £6,575. The roof went up to £3,265. Architect and building fees went up because of the constant changes in plan. The cost of the bathroom was seriously underestimated and tripled. Decorating and dressing the house went up to £6,283. The kitchen cost £3,150 altogether. David did save some money by not finishing the garden, and that came in at £600. There were huge costs that never made it into David's original budget. Refurbishing and replacing the windows cost £4,540. Labour costs came to £14,100. The plastering cost £4,505 and joinery cost £13,000. They didn't include their buying and selling fees, and these came to £6,322, bringing them to a total of £76,800. Bearing in mind the purchase price, the house needs to be valued at £170,000 for them to just break even.
Nice colours, right sort of paint finishes. Very much what buyers of this sort of property are looking for.
Show me about the fireplace.
Very light and airy, first impressions.
Possibly not the best choice.
I don't know if young professionals would quite like the units as they are.
Would have perhaps been more helpful to level off the soil so that they could immediately turf it.
It's nice to see they've retained 3 bedrooms in the property. Certainly makes it more saleable. It's a shame they haven't made this a second bathroom.
The electric panel heater I don't like.
It's going to affect the resale value to an extent.
I would say this property would achieve £185,000 to £190,000.
I think this house could achieve £205,000 to £210,000.
I think this house could achieve £180,000.
valuations that have come in are ridiculous.
I
think
think
they're
they're all too
just
low.
so out of order.
I think the 180 is definitely too low.
Well, yeah, I don't know who came in at 180, but they really need to. They've obviously had their eyes shut when they came round. I'm really upset about that.
You might have got 210,000 if you'd got central heating, the shower room, the garden, and possibly a slightly more contemporary kitchen. But the main issue is the central heating. It's the fact that it's really painful to do and complicated and time-consuming and going to ruin the carpets, and there's a lot of knock-on effects.
Just hold on, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
They originally spent £93,000 on the house. Their budget tripled and ended up at £76,800. If they sell for the average valuation of £193,000, they'll have made a £23,200 profit, which is a return any property developer would be proud of.
The market has risen by 22% in Sudbury in the last year, so if you'd done nothing, you'd have made £20,000.
I'd have made about 20 grand.
But it's £3,000 well earned.
And the experience. I mean, I'd have had to go to college and paid out fortunes to learn what I've learned in the last 8 months. So 3 grand seems pretty good money.
But to release that profit, they've got to sell it first.
Oh, this is nice.
Cold.
It is
Very, very
quite cold, yeah. Like the beams.
The fireplace. It'd be nice if that had been opened, wouldn't it?
Oh, wow. How lovely. Yeah, I don't think I would have gone for the wood.
Shaker, personally.
Yeah. Kitchen's not right.
No, it's not. It's not right.
Yeah. Take it stays like that and we sort the rest out. It's cosy.
That's all if small, dear.
I think that little room would make a really nice shower room. Nice finish, but very small.
I like the fact it's got 3 good double bedrooms.
A panel heater. This is something we'd have probably address if we actually bought the house.
David and Tricia decided to put the house on the market for £219,000. But unfortunately, 6 weeks on, they haven't had a single offer.
So would you do a listed house again?
I wouldn't be frightened of taking another one on. Certainly. Not now. No,
Gosh, so
certainly
from the beginning where you bought it, not even realising it was listed.
No, I know.
Now you'd actively seek a listed house.
Yeah, if it was right, and yeah, absolutely, it wouldn't worry me.
If David and Tricia had known what they were letting themselves in for, they probably wouldn't have bought this property. But with the help of a rising market, they should make a pretty reasonable profit. One thing's for certain, they've learnt a lot and could make a fortune on their next development.